Hello everyone, and welcome to another Pyro Gaming video, otherwise known as what has now become my weekly upload, because on Tuesdays I do Nightfall tutorials, and then I've run out of ideas for the rest of the week to make videos on, and this is kind of just what I've been doing. I've also been streaming. If you want to come check me out on Twitch, you'll find a link to my Twitch channel down in the description box below. But anyway, let's talk about this week's Nightfall. It is Tree of Probabilities, and you can pretty easily get 100k score on the 1000 or Legend version of this week's Ordeal. Let's start with modifiers. Air superiority, flying units do increased damage. Champions Overload and Champions Barrier, and Thune's Stratagem, solar damage is increased and knockback damage and distance are both increased, as will be demonstrated by me getting absolutely farmed towards the end of the video. Also, in the Legend version, you can expect to have your equipment locked and match game will be active, which is pretty standard. As for enemy shield types that you will encounter throughout this Nightfall, you will see a few of all three, Arc, Solar, and Void. And when I say a few, I do mean that. I think that there are 2 solar shields in this entire strike, at least in the version that we got when we ran it. Void shields are going to be the most common, so something like a Void machine gun. I'm using a hammerhead in this video. It worked out really well. You will also encounter some arc shields, both in the Infinite Forest and out. However, in the Infinite Forest, match game doesn't seem to be on for whatever reason, so you can tear through any elemental shield in the Infinite Forest with a kinetic, like you'll see me do with a sidearm. But the other arc shields that you will see is the wanted enemy just before the boss. He has an arc shield, as well as harpies during the actual boss fight whenever he first leaves the area when you've done enough damage to make him fuck this shit, I'm out. So let's talk about the champions. As I said, you will encounter Overload and Barrier, so make sure that you're equipped for each of those. Divinity is really good against these champions, especially when they're Overload, because not only does it stagger them with the Overload rounds that Divinity has built in, but of course it also expands the crit spot and allows your teammates to do more damage. The champions will be located. There is one right when you start. You just saw us take him out. There are not any champions within the Infinite Forest, but when you get out of the Infinite Forest, they are pretty dense. You run into them pretty often. You'll have one as soon as you drop down. You'll have 2 whenever you cross the bridge. Make sure that you're watching the video if you're having trouble finding one. If you're having trouble getting platinum, there is a hobgoblin whenever you get on your sparrow and you go across that bridge. When you land on the other side, there's a hobgoblin way up top up there that is really easy to miss. And I've made videos about this Nightfall in the past, and they're like, hey, we killed all the champions that we saw, and we didn't get platinum. What's going on? Are we missing one? 9 times out of 10, it's that dude. So make sure that you check him out in this video if you do not see where he is or you don't know where he is, because he is very, very easy to miss. That guy's actually an asshole. But once you get past him, then you can go ahead and go on to where you need to be at the end of that little section. The lead up to the boss, there's a couple of champions out there, as well as one right before you drop down to the boss. When the boss actually spawns, you don't want to melt him. Number 1, you have more champions that you need to take out, and number 2, you're not going to have 100,000 score unless you farm out some of those enemies, 9 times out of 10. So whenever the boss leaves, after he's taken, I think, a third to a half of his health worth of damage, and he takes off from that first room, the big group of ads will spawn. A tether works really well there. We'll talk about class builds and weapons in just a second. But there will be an Overload and an anti-barrier there. Or, I'm sorry, an Overload and a barrier, not anti-barrier. And in the next room, the second room where you encounter the boss, there will also be another Overload and another barrier. So keep that in mind. Let's talk about loadouts and start with class composition. I'm always going to say that Titan, Warlock, Hunter is the best 3-man class, or the best 3-man fire team, I should say. Just because you can literally cover everything in the game if you have one of each. However, in this particular Nightfall, a Titan bubble isn't really necessary unless you're just having a really hard time staying alive. If that's the case, then absolutely utilize that bubble. If you're comfortable without the bubble, then I think Well of Radiance as well as Orpheus Rig Tether Hunters are going to be the play here. There's a lot of little groups of ads. There's a lot of opportunities to make a lot of orbs with those supers, and I mean, take advantage of it. Especially if you're struggling to get 100k, you do need to kill every champion and pretty much every enemy between now and the final boss room in order to hit 100k on the 1000 version. So more orbs means more points. For your weapon loadouts, I am running a buzzard sidearm that does not have osmosis on, in case you were curious. I'm running Divinity, which is an arc trace rifle that also has overload, and I am running a hammerhead void machine gun. Also, my buzzard has anti-barrier rounds. So I can cover every champion in this Nightfall by myself. That's a good loadout, it really is. As I said towards the beginning of the video, you will encounter a little bit of all three of the elemental shield types, with solar being the least common. You're only going to see one or two solar guys, and it's going to be like right when we go across this bridge here in just a second. You can skip him if you don't want to run solar. Like you're probably going to be fine. That 400 or 500 points that he's worth is not going to be what decides whether or not you get 100k or you don't. So if you don't feel like running solar, like I said, there's only going to be one, maybe two guys in here that have a solar shield, and you totally can skip them and probably still be okay. The shield types that are really going to present problems are going to be the void ones. There's quite a few void shields, and the arc ones, there are quite a few of them in the boss room. So as long as you have those two covered, you're probably going to be fine. Like I said, solar is not going to be that common in here, at least in our version it wasn't, so don't stress too much about it. For your other teammates, as far as what they should be running, something like a Void Recluse with anti-barrier is going to be good. It's never going to be bad against barrier champions, especially when you're doing a strike that has Void Shields. It's always going to be good. Go figure. Go figure is also pretty good if you want to play distance, but unfortunately, there's the solar guy I was talking about. He's already dead. But unfortunately, with pulse rifles and stuff, you can't put mods on them, so keep that in mind. As long as you have all of the mods covered, which, by the way, I will point this out real quick, there are only 2 overload champions in this Nightfall. The rest are all going to be barrier, and the 2 overloads are in room 1 where the boss spawns and room 2 where the boss spawns after he leaves. I want to break real quick and tell you guys about this Hobgoblin because he is so easy to miss that you have probably driven right past him. So you're going to see me jump up on top of this thing. There is another way to get up here. I'm just doing it so that I can get in position to break his barrier shield with my tiny little sidearm. So I got to be really, really close. There's also some extra enemies up here that a lot of people miss. If you get to him quick enough, you can get some extra points. But there's that dude. There he is. Sometimes he's not even there. He's up on the higher platform that you see that I'm about to jump up on here. Like, sometimes he's even up there. This guy's a jerk for trying to play hide and seek, man. He's really easy to miss. Hopefully you guys don't miss him. Sometimes he's up here where I'm at now. Back to loadouts. I got distracted. So, Izanagi's is always going to be great against these champions. You don't have to worry about, like, a crazy DPS build or, like, a crazy boss damage build for this particular Nightfall, because this boss, at the end, he's not that big of a deal. He's pretty easy to kill. You can probably kill him with just snipers. I wouldn't recommend shotguns or any kind of close range weapons, just because of the stomp mechanic, Thune's Stratagem. He absolutely launches you, and it does a lot of damage. That mechanic is another reason that I say that wells and tethers are going to be so good. A well will help keep you alive if he does stomp you, and a tether will kind of stun him, at least, short term. Stun him enough to make it to where they don't stomp you and he can't launch you. But yeah, you're about to see me get farmed from that stupid mechanic because I just keep getting launched off the map and just blasted by everything. But other than that, the commentary portion is going to come to an end. I've given you all the advice that I can give. The rest is on you. If you enjoyed this video, click like. If you're new to the channel, click subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, I fucking love you. Feel free to stick around if you want to see what the rest of the champions look like. I will let this strike gameplay play out until it is complete and we get to the final chest. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. Thank you guys, and take care.